You're listening to the Morphology Podcast. Thanks for tuning into the Morphology Podcast, aka Murph here to share interviews about biking experiences from cyclists who have pedaled to places all over. Each week, we'll get to know new people and explore new destinations to ride your bike. As you listen to these adventures, you may wonder, why haven't I done that yet? Real quick, if you're listening to this episode in October of 2022, you can participate in the Murphology 200-mile Winter Challenge, especially if you need some inspiration to stay active once cold weather moves in. The link is in the show notes, or just head over to the Murphology Podcast website and click the link in the menu tab. Well, this week, meet Jay Indovino. Back in 2009, Jay started a bicycle event called Pedal the Cause in St. Louis. His goal was to raise money for cancer research, and to date, Pedal the Cause has raised millions and millions of dollars. Jay was executive director until 2020 and is on to tell us what it was like to run a top-notch first-class event where 100% of rider donations go directly to cancer research. 100%. Jay now consults others on how to run a successful event at I-5 Enterprises. He also bikes, of course, and a few years back, he was part of the worldwide technology team who participated in Race Across America. They actually biked across the United States in 7 days, 7 hours. So here's Jay. All right, I would like to welcome Jay to the podcast. How's it going, Jay?
Kathy, it's going great. And thanks for having me on the Morphology Podcast.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to talk to you. And a tiny bit of background, I was in St. Louis, I think it was last month, for a pretty big event called Pedal the Cause. And Jay, you came up to, I was at the Primal Wear booth, and you kind of came up and you were just chit-chatting for a little bit. And then I made the realization, I can't remember if you told me or if after you left, everyone else told me, but you are the founding executive director of this amazing event.
Yes, I was. And old habits die hard. After doing it for 10 years, you tend to make the round. So I saw the Primal tent, had to stop by and say hi. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Well, for those that are listening that maybe don't know what Pedal the Cause is, I'll give you my version of it. It's basically a one-day cycling event that attracts thousands of people, and it's also a fundraiser for a very important cause. So now let me give it over to you, Jay, and give us a better description of what Pedal the Cause is.
Sure. Well, Pedal the Cause is a cancer fundraising cycling event. All of the money that is raised, and it's a peer-to-peer fundraising event, all the money that is raised stays in St. Louis, supports cancer research at the Siteman Cancer Center and St. Louis Children's Hospital. And it's really rewarding to see how the money gets used. We funded well over 100 seed research projects since the beginning, and for every dollar that Pedal the Cause has invested, those projects have gone on to receive upwards of $8 additional in funding from mostly the NIH. So there's a big leverage factor.
Oh, sure.
And it's fantastic. So many of the projects have gone into clinical trials and are actually at the bedside treating patients as we speak.
And this event has gone on for many years. You kind of alluded to that. But do you want to give us like some history? Because, obviously you were executive director. So somehow at some point in your life, you went, we need to raise money for cancer. And we also need to do it via bicycle.
Well, right. And, it's funny how things pan out. And it's also funny, the things that you remember from, long time ago. So for me, Pedal the Cause was founded on the day after Christmas in 2009. And I get this phone call from a good friend of mine, Bill Coleman, who is a very successful real estate developer in St. Louis, but also a two-time cancer survivor, battled lymphoma and treated at the Siteman Cancer Center. And he had been watching CNBC, and they featured the Pan Mass Challenge on CNBC. And for those who aren't familiar with it, the Pan Mass Challenge is a similar cycling event out of Boston, and it really is the granddaddy of all fundraising events.
Mm.
At the time in 2009, 2010, they were raising about $30 million a year for
Whoa.
cancer research at Dana-Farber Cancer Center. Yeah, extraordinary. And in and around that time, a number of like events popped up. And so Pedal the Cause being one of them. So essentially, Bill saw this. I joked that I was the only cyclist he really knew. And he called me up and said, Jay, let's start this. And so I'm like, Bill, great.
Yeah.
At the time, I was commuting back and forth to New York. I worked in I was living in St. Louis, but worked in the financial industry. And every other week, I was on a plane back and forth to New York. I said, Bill, I'll do the best I can, but I'm all in. Let's give it a go.
Mm.
So, in that first year of 2010, we had an event, and we cobbled together 800 riders and donated close to $1 million for cancer research.
In the
And
first year?
in the first year, well, it was a lot of prodding. It was a lot of
Yeah.
whining and begging, but we were able to get 800 butts on bikes, as we used to say back then. And so Pedal was born, and so I was at a crossroads, and we needed an executive director, and it just was a total change of lifestyle and a total career change. But I ended up pursuing it, and it was a great decision, one that I'm really happy I made in hindsight.
Right. And I mean, the amount of money you have been able to raise over the years for, this such a good cause of cancer research. I know everyone listening to this podcast has been touched by cancer, either personally or somebody they know, family member. So we all know that the research is definitely needed for cancer research.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like to kind of encapsulate the kind of research that we funded. I put it this way: we're like the venture capital, if you will, of cancer research. We fund ideas,
Mm-hmm.
ideas that need data, they need proof of concept, and so a little money goes a long way. And once those ideas get that funding and get that proof of concept, they are in shape to go reach out and apply for bigger grants. Like I said, most of it coming from the NIH, but that's where the leverage comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So WashU and Siteman Cancer Center being one of the top, few cancer centers in the country, it was really great to provide that resource to them.
And going backwards, the way that you're able to raise so much money is, like you mentioned, peer-to-peer fundraising. And will you give us a high level of what exactly that means?
Sure. Peer-to-peer fundraising, which has, become so popularized in the last decade, especially with the advent of social media and, online giving. And that is, each participant reaches out to their network and asks for a donation. And so, like all like events, we give participants the opportunity to tell their story and to talk about their connection and to honor different individuals that may be battling cancer, and to either, take that link and send it off in an email, or just to post it in social media and try and fundraise. And, fundraising has become so prolific, especially when, you have these platforms that make it so easy to highlight your story and to tell it to, friends and family.
Mm-hmm. And I love peer-to-peer fundraising because it gives you a little sense of, I don't know if competition is the right word, but if I'm raising money and, maybe a family member of mine is also raising money, you have that little urge to well, I want to raise more money than they have. And it's all going to a good cause, it's a win-win.
Well, yeah, and there's a couple things that drive that behavior. Certainly, teams drive that behavior. So, like a lot of events like ours, we try to create all sorts of teams, corporate teams, friends and family teams. We had hospital teams, some doctor patient like teams. And so, you do create that competition. And also teams will get together and brainstorm and maybe do their own events on their own time and raise funds, whether it be, golf events or, poker tournaments or
Mm-hmm.
happy hours or whatever. But I think also what you're referring to is what we call gamification. And that is really trying to do all the, little things to kind of drive that competition with leaderboards or matching funds and try and get people and incentives, try and get people to, do the best they can and really reach, perhaps further than they think they can go.
Mm-hmm. If I could spell out success in all capital letters, I would, but you have been extremely successful. And I read somewhere that this event is a top 10 standalone fundraising event.
Well, it has been a top 10 standalone event recognized by the peer-to-peer fundraising organization.
Wow.
Um, and, a couple things on that. It starts with a really good model. And this model, again, was adapted by the Pan Mass Challenge and so many other cancer fundraising cycling events around the country have adopted this kind of same model. Pelotonia in Columbus, Ohio, Belisano at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Obliteride out at the Fred Hutch in Seattle. And, the model is that 100% of those funds are going to stay in your city
Mm.
and fund cancer research. And that 100% model is key. Sponsors and registration fees pay for all of the expenses so that literally 100% of all peer-to-peer fundraising, goes to research. And donors like that, fundraisers like that,
Mm-hmm.
and that's great. I would say the other, the second part of the model is to host a first-class event. Make it that signature event of the city, and we try to not just put a first-class bike ride out there, but to have the best in food. I don't know if you were there Friday night at Pedal the Cause for dinner, but we had 8 of the top restaurateurs there serving dinner to our riders, and it just becomes an event unto itself. So, it's great food, it's a great course, it's great support on the course, whether it be signage or SAG or aid stations. And so, the other thing I would say is that, you really try and build community
Mm-hmm.
and create a platform, to celebrate and honor people that are battling cancer or may have passed away from cancer. Create a platform to for corporations to do some team building and promote community service as well as health and wellness, and really kind of build a platform to to bring the entire St. Louis community together. So that's kind of the model.
Mm-hmm.
How we accomplished that, when we were launching, Pelotonia had already had a couple years under their belt, and we had the privilege of meeting Tom Lennox, who was the founding executive director for Pelotonia, and those guys, are huge. They raise upwards of $20 million a year for Ohio State University, and the one thing that resonated with me was, and this was before we started. He goes, "It's 1,000 coffees, Jay. You got to go out and have 1,000 coffees." And, it was a euphemism for like, go meet everyone in the city,
Yeah.
corporations, patients, doctors, church groups, cyclists, whoever. Just go meet people, tell the story. Everyone's been affected by cancer.
Mm-hmm.
1 in 2 men, 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with cancer. Just get out there. And that's what we did. In that, I met some, remarkable people. It's funny when you create that platform, remarkable people run with it.
Mm.
And so, we were fortunate to have a couple people that just drove, helped really drive our performance. And I'll name a few if it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Terry Grieg was the team captain for a team called Power by Hope. And when we started, she was a really big triathlete, and she was also had recently been diagnosed with colon cancer. I don't remember all the details, but she ended up being one of those featured participants at the Hawaii Ironman
Oh.
that are just, unbelievable inspirational stories.
Mm-hmm.
And she literally trained while she was going through chemo and ended up finishing the Hawaii Ironman. And it was an incredible story.
Mm.
And from that, she inspired so many people, survivors, caregivers, you name it, to join her team and to fundraise. And of the close to $50 million that Petal has donated so far, her team is responsible for like 3 million of it. And
Wow.
she has really kind of dedicated herself to Powered by Hope, which in turn has dedicated itself to raising money for Petal. And remarkable person, remarkable story. And then David Dreyer, who I'm pretty sure you got to meet. He's my successor and the executive
Mm-hmm.
director of Petal now. And his daughter battled brain cancer for 12 years, and unfortunately, she lost her battle a few years ago. But David and his wife Julie just, of course, immersed themselves in their daughter Victoria's life, but also immersed themselves in Pedal the Cause because it was a way, again, it was a platform to celebrate her,
Mm-hmm.
at one point survivorship and now her memory. And so, they brought their entire community together and they've raised millions of dollars for cancer research. So, it's people like that. And then Dan Tim, who was one of the top executives at Edward Jones, really helped, spearhead an important sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that 100% donation model is is really important to you know be a standalone top 10 event. And so Edward Jones became an incredible partner through his leadership, and he became our top fundraiser, matching all his gifts and really helping us get into that top 10 window. So,
Mm.
it's just all these factors coming together. And, we had a remarkable team at Pedal. And, it was, I think when I look back, it was well over 1,000 coffees, may have been like more like 10,000 coffees,
but
caffeined up.
but you nailed it, like you made those connections, and I was there. I didn't get to ride because I was part of the Primal Wear crew, but the sense of community was very, very strong. And I actually wrote down I wanted to mention Edward Jones because those members of that team, they were so proud to be part of Edwards Jones and to be part of the biking event. It was really, I don't know, it was a heartfelt event to be part of. I also have to give a shout out to the excellent food at that event because, like you said, Friday night, oh my goodness. I mean, it was like gourmet food. I kept saying, like, are we supposed to be? Is this part of the, everyone can eat this? It was just fabulous.
It was good. And, listen, that's the first time I really bellied up and tasted all of it, right? When you're running the event, when you're executive director, maybe someone is handing you something
Yeah.
as you're walking around. So I took full advantage. Absolutely.
That's awesome. Okay, so in 2020, you stepped down, and obviously the event has continued because you've already mentioned the new executive director, and you were there this year, which is how we were able to meet. But do you have any like super, this is my one of my proudest moments stories that you want to share?
Well, yeah, so in our last year, where we donated close to $4.8 million, it's the team, again, to bring all these people together
Mm-hmm.
for a common cause and to execute such a first class event. Your team is ultimately important, and we had an incredibly strong team. And in 2018, we had a lot of turnover, which is inevitably going to happen. And so in 2019, we had a lot of new members on our team, and so to kind of be our 10th year and to execute to in the same way that we had executed in the years prior was a very proud moment
Mm-hmm.
to continue the momentum, and so yeah, and after 10 years, it was it felt really good to have made such an impact. I was fortunate enough to have been honored at a dinner with Siteman Cancer leadership. Tim Eberline, the founder of Siteman Cancer Center, and the at the time the head of surgery and the head of the cancer center,
Mm.
along with several other senior docs, hosted a dinner for me, and that to have them be so appreciative of the work that you did through a cycling event. And,
Right. Yeah.
these guys are, incredibly brilliant scientists, but to have been acknowledged by them was a really proud moment.
That is amazing. And I can feel it through this phone call that they were as proud of you as you were as proud of the event.
Well, yeah. So, absolutely. They, it's one of these, it's one of these phenomena that happen. You start an event, and then all of a sudden, it's not your event; it's everyone's event. You
Yeah.
mentioned the pride Edward Jones had, absolutely, as
Right.
well as so many of our other sponsors. You know, the doctors, the researchers, the leadership at the hospital. It became their event
Mm-hmm.
over time,
Mm-hmm.
and all the teams, all the friends and family teams, powered by Hope and Team Victoria, it becomes their event, and not to get too corny about it, but it becomes St. Louis's event,
Yeah.
and that was our goal from the start, to create a signature St. Louis event that really supported cancer research, and so yeah, it's the community's event, and in 2012, our founder Bill Coleman moved from St. Louis to San Diego, and he started another event out there,
Is that
which has
the Padres pedal the cause?
yes,
Ah,
and that
good.
has
Yeah.
since after a few years, Bill connected with the Padres, and now that event is hosted at Petco Park, which is an unbelievable venue
Mm.
for any type of event, be it
Mm-hmm.
a baseball game or a bike ride. And so, that is becoming a signature event of San Diego as well, with the rides going over Coronado Bridge, and then an incredible event at Petco Park, which is just an unbelievable venue.
Hmm.
And the support from the Padres is essential. They do so much of the legwork. If you're fortunate, if you think about it, they host 80 plus events a year, right, for 40,000 people.
Right.
Baseball games, right? So, when you host an event for 3,000 cyclists, they they are so smooth and so good and so strong that
Mm-hmm.
whether it's course signage or sag wagons or just all the equipment that it takes to host an event, they are A plus.
Well, after people listen to this podcast, they have to make sure they check out pedalthecause.org because I don't know, there's just great photos, great information, ways to be part of it. I think that you would accept people even if they're not from the St. Louis area, correct?
Oh, absolutely,
Yes, everybody,
absolutely.
everyone who likes biking should go check it out. So, but
And I will say this about the ride, and I wish you had a chance to ride, because I know you're such an avid rider, The riding there is really special, especially if you extend your ride to the metric century or the century.
Hmm.
The roads out there, it's hilly. The century ride has about 5,400 feet of elevation gain, which people fall off their chairs when they hear that. Well, it's St. Louis. It's supposed to
Right.
be flat, but it's gorgeous country on quiet roads with these little hills that well, I shouldn't say little, but steep hills that can break you down over time. But it's really a special ride.
Hmm. Well, hopefully in your future you will get to ride it at some point, maybe? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I wrote it this year.
Oh, you did ride it this year.
And
Okay.
I think you mentioned that it was a 1 day event. It's actually grown to 2 days.
Oh.
And so, Saturday is a little bit more gravel oriented, and we gravelled on Saturday, and we did some road cycling on Sunday. So it was a great 2 day event, and one that I was happy to not be the executive director of, so I can get
Right.
out there and conquer some hills.
Yeah, it's a whole different perspective when you're now one of the cyclists, you're one of the athletes who gets to, explore rural St. Louis and talk to each other that way. Like it's just a whole different perspective, I'm sure.
Absolutely, and I don't have to read the survey results either, so that's always nice.
Yeah, I'm sure those hills were in that survey.
They always are, always
Okay,
are.
so another perspective is kind of, one of your new focuses now, and that is I5 Enterprises. So, do
Yeah,
you want to give us a little bit, about this company and this entity and how it came to be?
sure. Yeah, sure. So, after 10 years at Pedal, as you go through this, it was time for a change. And so, 10 years at Pedal, 30 years in St. Louis, my wife Jill and I ended up moving to Crescent View, Colorado, which
Ooh.
has always been one of our favorite places on earth. And it helped, that our three kids all went to college in Colorado. So
Mm.
we figured that if Colorado has most of our money, why not give it the rest, right? So we've moved out there, and it's been great. So I loved my time at Pedal. It's not like after 10 years I wanted to give it up. I just wanted to change. So I launched my consulting firm called I5 Enterprises, and I do a myriad of things. The big things that I try and help clients with is event visioning and management,
Mhm.
especially if you're a startup event trying to launch in a great way. I help organizations with sponsorships and fundraising, whether it be big sponsors or peer-to-peer fundraising.
Mhm.
Um, and I also help with board development and management. So after 10 years of running the pedal board and being a part of some other boards, and cultivating that board to help an organization succeed.
Mhm.
I thought that's something I can help other organizations with too. So those three things, are really the items that I focus on. And so, I currently have a couple clients, and I'm enjoying it, and the business is growing, and I'm having fun with it.
And it's kind of a no-brainer to me, but I wanted to at least ask it to you that, when you're pairing raising money with biking, like when I think about that, I rode my bike across the United States this spring, and it was a no brainer to me to turn it into a fundraiser of sorts. And so as I would ride my bike, I would be raising money for, we did it for Alzheimer's Association, and it just seemed like an easy match. But do you have like a thought on why you think pairing those two together is successful?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the core of it, certainly any kind of um, athletic endeavor, athletic challenge, is whether it be running or cycling or rowing or whatever. If it's bold enough, you can raise enough money. One of the reasons, though, that we started a cycling event is that if you looked at the landscape of fundraising, and this goes back to when we were launching in 2010, and it certainly proves true through today, is that there's something magical about cycling, and perhaps it caters to a higher demographic. To they're more apt to do bigger fundraising. It certainly attracts more affluent people, but I think there's also something more magical about getting on a bike and going longer distances than, say, running a 5K or a 10K. And I think struggling through 5,000-foot elevation century may be the right maybe the right quotient for someone to give you a little extra money. I don't know.
Right.
or riding your bike across the country like you did. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. People would kind of shake their heads at me like, "What? You what?" Okay, here's some money. Like it worked. It was a good pair.
Right.
Okay, so
Exactly.
you mentioned you are now in Crested Butte, Colorado, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So let's get into maybe some bike adventures. I know you've done
Yeah.
tons and tons of bike adventures, but like maybe start off with, now that you're in Colorado, what type of biking do you prefer as far as mountain biking, fat biking, road biking, any or all of those?
Yeah. So it's a great question. My garage has 15 bikes in it,
Whoa.
and most of them, except for the cruiser bike ride that you'll ride into town for dinner on. Most of them, except the mountain bike, are collecting dust. When you
Mm,
have when you have Crested Butte and being such a mountain biking mecca, and the diversity of trails, and the amount of trails, I still haven't gotten. Living here 3 years now, I still haven't gotten to everything. You just look at in your garage and you just pick the mountain bike every
yeah.
time.
Yeah.
So I'll get out on my road bike, especially if we have guests in, and I'll get out on the gravel bike occasionally too. But so many of the roads out here, even to gravel on, you much prefer your mountain bike. So yeah, the mountain bike is the bike of choice, and it's having spent 30 years in St. Louis and having had a big group of friends to ride with. It was 75% road biking. Surprisingly, St. Louis has great mountain biking too, but we were on the roads most of the time. But it's nice to be off the roads, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
And especially the natural beauty, of course, is awesome. We just went for our last couple rides a couple weeks ago in the aspen trees, and there's some great trails that feature them. It's just you're in awe of your natural surroundings. So
Mm-hmm.
so mountain biking is the pick.
Yeah, there's something to be said about just being off the roads, not worrying about distracted driving. Of course, though, when you're mountain biking, you have to be, watching roots and rocks and drop off. So there's all kinds of different scenarios, but there's something calming about being out in nature on a bike.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And to get away from cars, I mean, listen, in the last few years, people have only gotten more distracted, right?
Right, right.
As much automobile technology as there is, it's just it's nice to be away from cars, to be honest. Not that
Yeah.
when I'm back in St. Louis, I don't ride with my friends, and I do.
Yeah.
But it's also it's nice to have a group to ride with if you're on the roads.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely safety in numbers. But yeah, distracted driving, it's nice to be away from that. And yeah, you're right. You can get hurt pretty badly on a mountain bike. I've taken my tumbles. But thankfully, a lot of them happen at like 0 miles per hour,
Oh. Clipping out is an important last step of
Yeah,
getting off your bike.
exactly.
Well,
So
how about you give us an idea of maybe an epic ride that you've been on either recently or maybe a favorite ride you want to share?
well, I've got two for you. So a few years back in 2018, I was fortunate enough to have been invited on a corporate team to do Race Across America.
Whoa.
And yeah, Worldwide Technology put a team together. They raised money for Pedal the Cause. They had 7 guys, and I was the eighth. So it was such a privilege to have to be on that team and to have Worldwide Technology supporting all the logistics. Because
Yeah.
if you know anything about Race Across America, it's part bike race, but it's also part adventure race. The logistics are so thick
Mm-hmm.
that mistakes happen, and you have to really be on it. So yeah, so that was incredible. We finished in just over 7 days.
Wow.
Um,
So
seven
can
days,
I,
7 hours. Yeah, go ahead.
when you say, you're a team of 8, so
Yeah.
does that mean, is there a specific time frame that you have to rotate riders, or you just have to get from point A to point B as fast as possible?
Yeah, so it's a relay, right? And some people do it solo. Those guys
Yep.
are incredible.
Yes.
And I think the most popular group is a team of 4, and we were a team of 8. There weren't that many teams of 8 out there, but maybe like 5 or 6. I can't quite remember. But we did, we split into 2 groups of 4, and we did 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So within those
Oh.
12 hours, we had 2 vans, so we had 4 vans total. And so in our van, it was me and another rider, a friend of mine, Matt Long from Worldwide Technology. And his brother was the driver. My son was the navigator. So it was kind of like the family van. It was a
Mm.
lot of fun. And so, that group of 4, you would get on the road for, depending on um, the terrain, 30 to 45 minutes. And the other van would leapfrog ahead. And then you would tag that other van. You'd get back in the car and leapfrog up. And then the other rider would get out. So you would do that for 12 hours.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. That's,
And you're just cruising across the country, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, coming out of California, we got kind of to the deserty part. We had this tailwind. Solo, you were averaging like 36, 37
oh
miles an
my
hour.
gosh.
You felt like King Kong on a bike, and it was wonderful. But that didn't last.
Oh my gosh. And I interrupted you, but what did your time end up being for the team?
We were 7 days, 7 hours, and it's one of those things when you look back, you'd call it logistics. And we were a new team, and we also had an RV with our main kind of director that was kind of coordinating everyone.
Yeah.
And so mistakes happen. I think it took us a little while to get in coordination with the other team, and we hit a hailstorm in western Kansas, and we just kind of packed it in for a few hours. So, there were probably 8 or 10 hours. We always, I mean, all the guys look back, and we're always like, oh shucks, we could have, gotten in under 7 days.
Oh my
If,
gosh.
but mistakes happen, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
logistics happen. So yeah, but it was fantastic. We ended up raising, close to $200,000 for pedals. So
Oh,
that
that
was
is
that was cool.
fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be there with my son, and to have met a lot of these guys from Worldwide and hung out with them, it was a cool experience.
Wow is all I can say. That's amazing.
Yeah. And then the other epic ride, just to highlight Crested Butte, a couple. I do this a couple times a year. There's a road called Slate Road out here, and it kind of grinds up for 10 miles or so. It's a dirt road, and then it turns. It kind of has a 180-degree turn,
Mm.
and then it starts going up. And in the next, I would say, 4 or 5 miles, you gain 2,000 feet of elevation, and it
Wow.
is a grind.
Wow.
And I leave from my house, which is 8,800 feet, and you top out at Paradise Divide, which is well over 11,000 feet.
Mm.
and it is a grind up. But after you grind it up, there's this string of trails, including the classic ride out here called the 401 of single track. And so, you're after that big grind up, you have like another 2 hours of single track, connecting different trails down.
Mm.
And so it's a certainly a 5 to 6 hour day, but it's pretty epic. At least for me, it is.
Yeah. And you said that Slate Road?
Yeah, so they call it. The nickname is Slate d'Huez, as in Alpe d'Huez. So it's lovingly termed the Slate d'Huez out here. So try and get that done a couple times a year.
And when you name a road like that, you know there's some elevation involved.
Totally,
Yeah.
totally.
Oh man. So besides, you're getting to know Crested Butte still as far as finding all the fun places to bike, do you have like an ultimate favorite place? This is where I have to go every year.
You know, well, I'll say a couple things on that. It's amazing. So, Crested Butte really, and there's a great organization out here, Crested Butte Mountain Bike Association, termed SIMBA, and they do an unbelievable job, and they're really proud of the work that they do in the area here on the trail system, and it really is a mecca. Along with Moab and Marin County, and we try
Mm-hmm.
and get to Moab. Uh, we've been here a few years now. We try and get to Moab every year, which is, of course, amazing mountain biking. Um, but what I would say is that, every Colorado town has poured a lot of money into mountain biking. And so, just south of us is Gunnison, and there's a great place called Hartman Rocks, and you could spend an entire day there with 45 miles of single track.
Wow.
Salida and Buena Vista are just over the pass from here, and they have awesome mountain biking. And every town in Colorado seems to have just become a quote unquote mecca. But to answer your question of what's my favorite, I mean, my favorite is literally going out my back door. And I feel so spoiled saying it, but if you've worked all day, especially in the summer, you could head out at 4, 5, 6 o'clock and get a great ride in just outside your
Yeah.
back door on world class single track. But the ride, the pick ride here is that 401, and you have to work to get to the top. But in July, especially when you're coming down this, epic single track on the ridge of this mountain, looking at Mount Crested Butte amongst the, wildflowers, it is, you're giggling as you're going down. So, as a good crested beautyan right now, it would be hard for me to not highlight that ride.
Yeah, yeah. And, of course it's great single track, but the views, like I don't know. I think I would be looking out, your back window, front window. I'm not sure. You probably have mountains all around you, but just to this is where I live. Look at this. I can just see you with your arms out. Here I am.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, not to put a damper on that conversation, but there are some times when it's you wouldn't mind being on a beach.
Right.
So right now the dog walk occurred this morning at 11 degrees.
Ooh, yeah.
My watch still says it's October, so it's it's not all rainbows and unicorns,
Right.
and so the lifts don't open until Thanksgiving. The real we'll see when the real snow gets here. So we'll transition to skiing at some point, but there's some months where a beach looks very tasty.
Sure. Well, looking forward, I'm assuming you have Pedal the Cause on your 2023 calendar, but any other biking events on the calendar yet?
Well, yeah. So I just started working with the University of Rochester, New York, on helping them put together a signature bike ride for their cancer center, the Wilmot Cancer Center, that's connected to the university. And that's going to happen in the fall of 2023.
Oh,
And,
nice.
we'll be making a big announcement over the next few months on, date and courses but it's born out of the same model. The interesting note is that one of the researchers that we funded early on at Pedal with a $400,000 grant went and turned it into an $11 million NIH grant. And
Wow.
so he's like our poster child
Yeah.
for the leverage of what our money can do. But soon after that, he moved to be the co-head of the Cancer Center and head of surgery at the University of Rochester. And
Huh.
he's always wanted to do this, a bike ride to help him raise funds. And so now the stars are aligned. So it also happens to be almost coincidentally my alma mater. So
Nice.
yeah. So I'm really looking forward to that event. That the riding there is awesome, and it should be a wonderful kickoff event in the fall of 2023. So so that's what I have on the calendar, and always love getting back to St. Louis and San Diego to support those events and highlight them.
Yes, I love it. It's always fun to go someplace new on the bike, see new areas, but then also knowing that you're doing something good for a cause. I just love that connection with biking and raising money for whatever nonprofit.
Absolutely. It's a great way to raise money and to have fun. I mean, you got the feeling out there in St. Louis,
Yeah.
it's a platform for a community. It's a platform for fundraising. It's a platform for awesome research. But, at its core, it's just a platform for fun.
It's a blast. Yes. Well, if people want to follow you, whether it's, a nonprofit or maybe your business, what sort of social handles do you have?
Yeah. So my Twitter handle is at Indovino, JAYINDOVINO. I'm not super active, but that's where you can find me on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And my website is i5-enterprises.com. Don't forget the dash, or you'll go someplace else. But i5-enterprises.com, and that could just gives my background and some of the services that we provide.
Excellent. Well, Jay, I appreciate your time today, and it was really fun to, learn more about Pedal the Cause and your new venture and just biking in general.
Yeah, well, Kathy, thank you for reaching out, and it's been a pleasure to be on your podcast, and look forward to listening to all your podcasts going forward. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jay.
You bet. Bye, Kathy.
Well, that's it for this week. A few great deals to send your way. Use code MURFOLOGY at hammerhead.io to get a free heart rate monitor with your crew, too. And a shout out to Lily Trotter's compression socks. Use code MURFOLOGY to get 20% off your purchase of the best compression socks. Also use code PRIMALMURPH for 20% off your Primal Wear cycling gear at primalwear.com. Of course, email me at murphologypodcast@gmail.com if you have a topic or the name of a cyclist you find interesting. Support my podcast at patreon.com/murphology and visit my Facebook, Instagram, and website for daily entertainment. I have more great episodes in the pipeline, so I hope you continue to be a Murphology podcast listener.